Let's get serious. We are talking breast cancer awareness, and we are absolutely honoured to have a very special guest with us this morning, and it is the wonderful Anita. Good morning, Anita.
Good morning, Troy. Thank you for having me on your program. And to everybody listening, I just want to say, Waram Jika, and I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation.
How special are you? Do you know I'm Indigenous? Not that you needed. I'm sure you didn't pull that out just to impress me. I feel like you've done that before. It's so good to acknowledge where you are. So thank you.
And I think, for me, I think breast cancer has been one of my adversities, but it is about just acknowledging that it is a trial and tribulation. But there's so much of possibilities when you are faced with something that's as debilitating as breast cancer. And I think for me, the most important thing has been the amazing people that I've met through breast cancer.
Wow.
The medical staff, the nurses, the doctors, the oncologists, but just friends, families, and neighbors that were able to reach out because I am traditionally South African. Then I lived in New Zealand for a while, and I'd come to Melbourne in 2007, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017, right. And it's just me and my two sons that. That's family, and it's amazing over the years the family that the love that you gather, the family and the people around you that makes such an important difference in our lives. And I'm fortunate that I have this beautiful partner, Jonathan Stone, who has always been there for me. And most important thing is when you feel a sense of belonging to a place, belonging to a country. Belonging is so important because it gives you that sense of purpose to get up each day and to dress up and show up.
Yeah. Oh, you talk about dress up. I'm still putting away the frocks from Frocktober 2 weeks ago, and I need to give them back because they're so... But no, it is important. I think you hit this intro out of the park. You talk about village, and we've heard it before. It takes a village to raise a child. It doesn't stop at a child, does it?
No, and the interesting thing is, apart from having breast cancer, knowing the treatments of chemotherapy and all that, it is about. I also work in mental health, and it is about that entire community that is around that person. Or when it's somebody suffering from mental health, it's usually others that are impacted by that. And it is about coming together and just being there, caring, nurturing, and just knowing there has to be that sense of compassion about community that makes such a difference.
Did you feel at threat anything from life before breast cancer? That instant change where I think that we can really scramble for life's meaning, and especially, I haven't had anything as serious as cancer or anything even close, to be honest. I've had a bad flu. I'm not even close. So, but we empathise and we try and think about what that would be like and try and appreciate life. What did you get challenged by when you first heard that you got cancer?
Oh, I think the very first thing was, it was interesting. It was intuitively that I just knew something was not right. And I went to the doctor and she said, you've just got a little extra protein in your urine. You need to check this. This is a marker for breast cancer. And that for me was a light bulb moment. And I came home, I immediately called the breast screening clinic, and I got an appointment the very next day. And it was just in the last, so I'm a teacher, and it was in the last week of January, so I needed to go back to work.
Sure.
I went back to work the Wednesday, and on Friday morning I got a call from the breast screening clinic to say that I need to come in immediately. And I said, listen, I'm at work. I can't do this. I'll come in March. And they said, oh, no. You need to come in.
Oh, wow.
And I did. And I wasn't expecting that. And I think when something is so far from the left field, it just hits you like a ton of bricks. And so I had a biopsy, and the biopsy came back that I did have a tumor. And according to the size, I was still at stage 1, so it was just optimal to be able to have surgery in the next month or so. But for me, the most compelling thing about that particular day was I came home just feeling frozen. I put on the television really quietly, and the very first ad was a real life policies, funeral policies.
Right.
So I thought to myself, okay, if this is where I am right now, I need to do something about it. So I called them and I said, listen, they said, oh, we'll ask you a few questions. And I said, look, I do have breast cancer. I need a funeral policy, but can you give me a life policy because I haven't had surgery yet? And they said, oh, no, we can't do that. And I said, well, I need something because my children don't have the money.
Yes.
For the next 3 or 4 months. So I need to have something that would be able to set them up. So I took 2 policies for $15,000 each, one to pay for a funeral and one to pay for rent for a few months.
Is this on the Friday when you got home from getting diagnosed?
This was that was a Friday, and they called me back on the Tuesday.
Far out. You're a fast mover.
So the funny thing about it all was I had surgery and I thought I was going to be fine until I realized that I had to have chemotherapy. And that was the most, it was one of the most, it just ripped into my soul, because for me, the people that I knew around me, and I guess you look at television, it always ends in it always ends in sadness. And I had a beautiful friend at that time, Jenny Alba, who came and said to me, I was listening to a song and I thought, oh my God, that's fantastic. That needs to be played at my funeral. So I made a list of that, and she said, what are you doing? And I was crying, and she said, well, you organize your funeral, and as soon as you're finished with that, let me know. And I called her back a few days later and I said, I'm okay now. And she said, good, it's time to start living. And she took me out for coffee. And whenever I went to chemotherapy, there was always a friend or Jonathan who would come and be with me, sit with me. My school principal had come and sat with me one time, because it was just it was so scary. And I just think all the love that people show, the nurses, they were just absolutely amazing, and the doctors. So I think what I learned from this whole experience is, regardless of what you're going through, there'll always be somebody there that you can reach out, but there'll always be people that have kindness and compassion in their souls. Yeah. So I suppose for me, it was about crossing that threshold, Troy. And that was, I think it was my 3rd chemo when my hair started to fall out. And that was another day where I remember just looking at myself and thinking, as my hair started to fall off and I could just do this, and it was all coming off in chunks. And I decided, well, I'm going to get the hair trimmer, whatever it's called. And I just went through and cut whatever. And that was me. After having hair this long, I was going to chemotherapy a little later, and I thought, I just got to do this for myself, because that was something that was really crushing to my soul, to know that my hair was just falling off.
What was your experience then from entering the medical system? You sound like someone that thinks about things, but then just gets things done. Were you ever stopped in your tracks from the medical system being not accurate, or did you have quite a fluent, supported experience through treatment?
I have to tell you something really funny. So if you look at that photograph, I had a port put on, and the port is where you'd so they'd attach the cannula for the chemotherapy. And the day that I went to have the port on, and this was at a local hospital here, there was this lovely nurse who was in training. And my name is Anita, and there was another gentleman. We were two people in this waiting this ward, and his name was Andrew. And of course, she prepped me. And when the nurses came to take me to surgery, I had prostate cancer, so she mixed up our files. Laugh! It is so funny.
What did she say? What happened? How did you?
Oh my God! The medical staff went into this frenzy. They were just really upset. And I was lying there feeling like, what is going on? But I had to see the funny side of it.
Oh, that would be frightening.
Oh my God, I didn't know I had balls.
That would be so frightening. And don't stuff this up. That's way off. Get me to another ward.
At least she had the first two letters of our names correct.
Oh, that's close to home. My mother does that. I think we all get a little bit of the name mixed in with whatever it is you call the dog your son, and oh no, but that's quite frightening on that in that situation. Wow.
But I think when I think about how the support from the medical staff, there's just so much going on, and at times we just need to know that it's going to be okay. And even if there's a mistake made, somebody will come back and rectify that. So those were the things that I learned. I learned tolerance. I learned to be patient. I learned that for somebody like me that is always proactive, I was now at the mercy of others. And I just had to know and trust that it was going to be okay.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. We can apply that to probably lots of things. Sometimes the resistance causes you some serious problems. And eventually you just need to trust something else other than your research, and it can get a bit too much. You talked about a moment that was the most compelling, and when you knew that you were going into chemo. We've talked a lot about trauma in the last couple of weeks. Is that what breaking through hypnotherapy is kind of about clearing some of that stuff that gets left alone and or unseen or untouched from traumatic experiences? Because it is traumatic.
It is. And I think we all experience trauma in different ways, but I was looking for an opportunity to cross that threshold. I needed to find myself again, and whatever the self was going to be, I needed to love myself, nurture myself, because I had so much of love around me. I needed to do that for myself because within me, I was angry, I was upset, there was just this real sense of grief, and just grieving for all the things that was and could be and should be. And I realized that it can't be any different, but I can make a difference. And it was in that time that I started doing meditation. As a child, I had learned meditation and I knew the power of it, but I was looking for something that was going to change my mindset, because mental health is so much about your mindset. And often it is all those chemicals in our body and the imbalance, but it's also about how we feel about ourselves. And I, at that time, worked in a mental health ward, in a psychiatric ward for adolescents. And I knew exactly on a day-to-day what kids went through. And the days that I didn't have chemo, I went to work. It was just a protective factor for me, knowing that I could do something different. I could do something that was just wondering more about myself. But it was also mirroring what they were going through and what I was going through, but needed that inner strength, because the medication was there, but so much of where I was at was just my mind, and I needed to clear the cobwebs from my mind. And it's funny when the student is ready, the teacher appears,
It's so
And
good. So good.
I found that I was looking through YouTube clips and I came across, it's called rapid transformation therapy. And I was looking for something that was rapid. I was looking for something that was transformational because I needed to be my best again. And I started doing this and there was a shift, just a shift in myself, not getting up and feeling sorry for myself, starting to feel grateful that there was this the next day, grateful for all the people around me, grateful that I could be in a country where I could have the best interventions. And it was through gratitude that I learned that there's so much more to be hopeful for. And it taught me what hope, the difference between feeling hopeless and feeling hopeful. And from feeling hopeful, you can move to feeling better about yourself, feeling amazed that each day things are getting better. And although it was baby steps, it was just, it was this finding that I could just plug in messages into my mind and know that that was there, work through it, actually for it to make meaning in my life and see it in my interactions with each person and be grateful for that. That started to make that shift. And I then went and did for myself, for my own healing, used hypnotherapy because I just needed to move beyond medical treatments and having a mind that was so cluttered of insecurities, of fear, of feeling anxious. And we all feel anxious for different things, and it's okay. But there is a point where it can become debilitating and actually just you feel so closed. And I just didn't want that for myself. And I thought, whatever the outcome is, I wanted to feel that I could live my life to my fullest. And in doing that, I started to imagine what life would be like, with or without breast cancer. I started to believe that this was possible for me. I started to believe that this was possible for my family, for my friends, and I could just go back to work again and just be. And all of a sudden, I started to achieve those goals. And it was in that I thought, oh my God, this is amazing, because so much of who we are is our thoughts, the thoughts we think, because they become the loop in our life. And as long as we think that thought, that's what we sit with. Those thoughts become our actions, which then become our habits. And if I wanted to become better, I needed to change my habits. And the funny thing was, as much as I was afraid, I didn't really cry because I was holding all this within me. And it was one day that I thought, I just needed to release this. Let it go, just let it go. And it was through going really deep within myself, finding the root, the cause, the reason. For what were the things where did my insecurities come from? It allowed me to just liberate myself, free myself from any sort of worry or anxiety, but also just know that I could put in better thoughts into my mind. And from that, I was going to heal. And I think in 2018, when I had my last treatment of Herceptin, and I said bye to the nurses, and I'll see you around, because I was at the same hospital that I was having treatment. It was lovely to know that I left there with a mindset, I'm not coming back. And if I do come back, it's because I want to be able to say to others that if I can do it, you can do it too.
Do you think it's avoidable? We talk about prevention before cure. Do you think, what in your experience, you've worked in mental health with youth, I think I caught there. You've seen a lot of just kind of variations of mental health. Can we do anything in our lives now to avoid getting tripped up, or when we face another traumatic situation, hopefully you don't, but, you know, life goes those ways sometimes. You get knocked a few times. Is there anything around that you think stands strong with people that that don't get knocked down for long, that we could take on board in our living before something traumatic happens?
You know, I'm a teacher and I teach, I work in mental health, so social and emotional learning. And I guess I'm seeing the top tier of kids that have acute trauma, but also kids that in schools that really struggle. And so often, I wish there was in school more around well-being, and schools are doing a great job about well-being and having more staff, and that's the one thing. And teachers, there's this real efficacy that we care about kids. That's why we're there. We want the best, but there needs to be more done, because in all my the work that I do with people that have trauma, it all started when they were a little child. It's when it goes unnoticed. It's that parent that doesn't have enough time. And it's not because a parent doesn't care, because you are sitting with your own grief, your own sadness, whatever it is, your own mental health. It's about all those little things in life that become the bigger thing. And sometimes it could be just that one thing that snaps and triggers off an event that could have been, I guess, taken care of when you were younger. So I think when going back, I wish that kids have the confidence and the voice to say, this is what's happening to me, and have loving, nurturing people around them to be able to hear that. Because it's often when you don't have that voice, or you are afraid to say what you need to, that it impacts on you.
I'm thinking of an example, and it's just spot on. With my uncle, actually, my mother's brother, we think about him often, and he's constantly in this vortex of things not going well, and he's very lonely, but he doesn't have many good people around him, and he keeps hanging out with just the wrong people or none at all, but doesn't deal with that stuff that happened 40, 50 years ago. And it's very evident what it is, but refuses to look at it, and it can be tough. It can be really tough. And we feel for those people. Tell us about hypnotherapy. We've got one listener. I remember yesterday, a good friend of mine said, "Oh, good. Can't wait to listen to this hypnotherapy woman. What can we do?" What's breakthrough hypnotherapy about?
It's a fantastic, breakthrough hypnotherapy is based on rapid transformation therapy, and it is an award-winning hypnotherapy. So it's won 14 awards in the last 2 or 3 years. It is where, unlike other therapies, you go into hypnosis. So hypnosis is not about being asleep. It's about just calming your mind. And when your mind is calm, you allow your subconscious mind to become aware and open and receptive to just new ideas, new beliefs. But also it is that subconscious mind that holds our fears, those traumas. And it is about when you are in that really calm, relaxed, quiet state, are you then able to talk about the root, the cause, the reason of why you're experiencing what you are experiencing today. And it's when you're able to make that link. And often it's because when we were little, something has happened, or probably when you're a teenager, and you can make those links with the scenes that come through. You are then able to actually acknowledge that that's what I'm dealing with. Start to repair that, and very often it is the first time people cry. It's just about, and it's not about crying, it's just about releasing, letting go, because it's when you're allowed to let go of that baggage that you carry around. And over the years, the baggage becomes so much of other stuff that adds onto it. And if you can just eradicate, erase, eliminate those beliefs. It makes such a difference because people then realize they actually have the power within themselves to let go of that baggage that they carry. And once we do that, part of the hypnotherapy is then you just quieten down, you let go, knowing that you've released this. And I work with either it's 1, 2, or 3 sessions because in that time it's enough to heal the trauma or to heal whatever is sitting there. And in the meantime, for the next 21 days, I give you a transformation. So I say, if this was a magic wand, what's the one thing you want for your life? So none of that negative stuff, all the positives. And whatever they say, that's what I feed into the transformation, because you're feeding into a person. It's that nourishing and nurturing the mind and their soul with those words that they want to hear, the words that maybe the parent never told them or a teacher never said.
Sure.
That you are fantastic, you are interesting, you're smart, I love you unconditionally. It's all those things that everybody wants to hear, but it's drawing from them. It's what they want to hear for themselves. And I weave that into a transformation, which they then listen to for at least 21 days, because for anything to become a habit or a belief, it needs to seep deep into our subconscious. And when it does, we start to believe that about ourselves. And when we believe that, we are able to imagine and experience and achieve the goals that we set for ourselves. So yesterday, I had a young man who was 27. It was the AFL weekend, went out, partied with his friends, got caught with the police for partying, had a $5,000 fine, lost his license, lost his job. When he came to me, he was so anxious. And I called him yesterday and he said, Anita, listening to that recording every day has made such a big difference, because it's okay to make mistakes, but now I'm riding my bicycle and I'm becoming healthier. I've applied for a new job and I've got other things to do. And I wanted to get rid of that job and I didn't know how to, but it's like the universe has moved all these things out of my path, and all of a sudden I'm free to be me. But thank you for helping me. So he's coming back to see me on Thursday.
Oh, brilliant. And
those are the little stories that sometimes life seems so traumatic, but you can just make that difference. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what Jonathan and I are doing with breakthrough hypnotherapy.
When you're dealing with the mind can also be the problem. It's pretty obvious. A constantly racing mind, is hypno less effective?
Absolutely. And it's about, there was somebody that I worked with who said, I don't think I can get hypnotized. And so after half an hour, she said, I'm not hypnotized. And I said, you so want to control your thoughts that you wouldn't allow yourself to just let go. And sometimes people have a secondary gain of having those thoughts running there, because it gives them a sense of purpose. But when they realize that life can be different, you can actually lead a fulfilling life without those thoughts, or you can turn those thoughts into better thoughts. It makes a huge difference.
That was a question from the chat line, by the way. So really engaging stuff. My mother actually asked something. Did you suffer any depression? You dealt with it a little bit there. You were flat for a while, but it seemed like you picked up the pieces got moving pretty quickly. But did you suffer, and how did you cope if you any down days?
Depression is something that is, you experience it in so many different ways. It was just this sadness that overcome me. And all I could think about was what my funeral was going to be like. I needed it to be something that people remembered. And then one day I thought to myself, this is bullshit. I need to start, I'm still alive. And I need to move this cloud, this fog, because that's what it felt like. It felt like that cloud. And once I started to listen to the hypnotherapy or just changing my mindset, the fog started to lift. And it was, as a metaphor, it was exactly what was happening for me, because I could start to see 100 meters away of clarity. And then it became 200 meters away.
Yeah, wow.
And then I could start to see. And after that, I thought, I'm not sure how each person experiences depression, but for me, this is what it was. It was this heaviness sitting around me that I knew that I needed to let go, because I could hold on to it and I could get the attention that I was getting from it, but I could let it go and also get the attention, a similar kind of attention, but flip it around, because I needed to fill myself with feeling grateful, feeling compassion, and feeling love for all the people that were there for me.
You've certainly reminded me today to continue to tell myself that you're a student for your whole life. We can sometimes hinge or get a little bit too much pride because we've done something amazing in life and we forget to deal with some other things in our life. But we're so good at this. We're the cafe owner. I run my. You can't tell me I'm great. But we can very quickly start neglecting areas in our life that get left for too long. So this is a really great thing. I love being a student. It's just a good reminder. Hey?
You just open yourself up to that opportunity, and you just never know what you'd learn. And it is in learning that we grow. And that's, I think it's a teacher in me, but it's also about just having that open mind.
Yeah. You're a wonderful person to talk to this early in the morning, and thank you to Noriko for letting us know about you. I'm so glad you've come on the show.
I'm so glad to have been on the show. Thank you to all your listeners. Thank you, Nicole, Noriko. I love you for absolutely being able to plug me in with Troy. And Troy,
right.
It's been an amazing honor to be your guest. And I thank you so much for this opportunity.
You're more than welcome. You're more than welcome. Thanks for sharing. And I'll put up the link to your website as well for anyone that wants to seek some further help or have a chat. And there's some great chat coming on here. Lots of love for you. Noriko said, "Love your guts, Anita." You can call me. You can call me Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
We'll see you again. Thanks once again.
Thank you.